Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. In this video, I'll be going through and running down my thoughts on the flex position in AFL SuperCoach. A little bit of a change here, as I thought a couple of player reviews or previews in a row, I didn't want to just do them straight for a week or two. I thought I'd mix it up a little bit, give you some SuperCoach content, as that is something I'm trying to lean more into. And I thought I'd give you some thoughts on the AFL SuperCoach Flex position. Especially some thoughts from ChatGPT itself. I will be changing it a little bit because some of their definitions of it or just examples are not right, but give you my thoughts as well as ChatGPT and sort of other thoughts in the community itself. But anyway, let's run into it and start this video. So the flex position is a new position, as the as it says here, select a 23rd player from any position as your flex player. Your starting lineup will now consist of 23 starters. Your team will score points from the best 22 each round, with your flex position adding additional cover and strategies when managing your squad. And you can obviously read more of that on the SuperCoach website itself. The supercoach.com website has it there. So in AFL SuperCoach, the flex position refers to a player's ability to be selected in multiple positions. I guess that is technically right. This typically applies to players with DPP. We know that, such as, just looking at this here, Elijah Hewitt-Kent is a mid forward, same as Caleb Daniel and Bailey Smith. And Neil Erasmus currently. This squad has not been updated, I can tell you that. For example, a mid forward, like we said, and then also a defender mid, like we said, with Sinclair up here, as you can see, our mid defender. This flexibility is useful for team structure, allowing easier trading and covering for injuries or bye rounds. And then I'm just going to type flex position SuperCoach and see what comes up, if anything else. Let's see. How flex works, DPP, etc. You can use DPP swings, etc. Example, I'll try to find what I had, because I had a big one a couple of days ago when I was searching up for this video itself, talking about how the flex position is best used, I guess, how to best use flex position SuperCoach, as I had a big, it was more from ChatGPT than a couple of lines. Here we go. I think this is what I'm looking for itself. This is what I'm looking for. So it gives like 5 or 6 different things. So how do you best use the flex position from ChatGPT? Using the flex position, dual position, etc. 1, picking strong DPP players across multiple lines. Okay, so we'll start with that thought, then expand it. So that's basically saying start or Jason Horne-Francis or another ruck in there, like starting a primo. And I kind of agree with that when you're talking about the rucks, because when you're talking about the rucks and starting 3 primo rucks, or maybe even 2 primo rucks and a Sean Darcy or a Tom De Koning. So say you start Max Gawn, Tristan Cherry and a Tom De Koning. That does allow you to get that extra primo, but we obviously know it's coming at the expense of probably the midfield line is the most obvious one. If you're talking about the midfield per se, I don't necessarily agree with that, because it's just because you can't fill the whole midfield with primos. Well, you can, but it would be at the massive expense of your whole other side. Because you can't do that, you can't really actually gain. You're not actually really putting a primo there. You're just effectively putting like your M1 into the flex position and then just putting another rookie on field. Whereas that has no real difference in terms of just having a rookie in the flex position. Like I could probably show this a lot easier if I just put a Sheldrick in there for now. Save that. I will go back and change this all up soon. But say I did this. Did this here. You see Marcus Bontempelli, and I'll put the VC on him, because a lot of people are going to do something like this, where they put a Bontempelli or a Butters or a Brayshaw in, or a Sarong in their flex position each week, as their VC, because I think if you're putting a midfielder in, your midfield VC should be a flex position, and we'll get to that in a second. But if you're doing that, you just got 3 rookies plus the 3 mid prices in here at the moment in round 1. But if you swap this around, then you've still got the 3 mid prices and 3 rookies. They're just in different positions on the field. So that's why I think that it doesn't really account for for the midfield, the back line, or the forward line, because you're going to have those 3 rungs of primos, mid prices, and rookies, whereas you don't really get that in the ruck line. So the only line I would say that it really doesn't actually change much, it does actually change the setup, would be if you're picking strong in the ruck line. And using the swing set strategy, DPPs on the bench, etc., moving around. So yeah, we already talked about that, I guess, to a certain extent. That the flex position allows you to, I guess, in a way, I would say, allows you to put your stronger players in the flex position, such as your VCs, etc., and then filter through and almost have more guys potentially, because you've got that extra slot, which could become a permanent red dot or something like that. You've got more guys that you can filter through here, especially on the early buys, etc. Having an extra slot to place your to get that 23rd guy, because potentially you've got 2 guys in the bench, 2 out of your 3 sitting here or something like that, and you've got an extra midfielder that you can actually play. Then you've got that access to that guy, and it can also allow you to still get 22 guys on in a buy round when a lot of people potentially don't have that opportunity, as they've got 2 or 3 guys. They've got potentially 3 defenders out on the buy, etc. So that enables you to do that as well. We talked about that, taking advantage of ruck forward DPPs. Yeah. So what also can happen is that if you look at the ruck forward, because that is the general consensus, is that most players, other than Mark Blickards, I think if they have ruck status, and they're DPP, it's going to be with the forward line. And I will just show that quickly here. I'll get rid of Caleb Daniel and then I'll place him back. But I want to just go Jackson here. And then what do I have left? 27k. I'd need to, let's just get rid of Bailey Smith and put a couple of rookies in so that I can actually do the movements for you guys. Let's just go here and get some 150 odd K guys. Something like that for you guys. So if I do that, I probably also want to just a ruck forward. Do we have any rucks forwards? There we go, Oscar Scene. And then I can show you guys what I'm referring to. But if you've got, say, we'll just put McRae down there. If you have got the ruck forward and then you've got a, where is Luke Jackson? I should probably actually get rid of Boyd, put Jackson in the, in that slot there. We'll put Jackson, where is he? Sean Darcy, Luke Jackson, and then we'll put a forward. It doesn't really matter who the forward is because I've already got the loop. We'll go that for this time being. So you've got Luke Jackson here. You know that, say, a Team English scores really well, and that's one of your that your guys here don't really score that well. Then you have the opportunity now, if you do have that ruck slot open or something like that, or even if I just move Oscar Steen to there, then you can see, which isn't going to happen often, but the flex just allows you another sort of avenue to do something like this. And then I mean, you could have already done that itself, but I guess in a sense, Luke Jackson doesn't actually have to be a ruck, or Oscar Steen doesn't actually have to be a ruck forward. They can just be Harry Boyd can also just sit here itself, but it does allow you to now move those ruck only players, not actually the ruck forward. So I should have actually done that itself, but you're interchanging these guys here, which allows you to, I guess, effectively, you could do something like this where you get this, you get both scorers there, and you get a captaincy loophole as well. So you get 3 rucks there in a sense there. So that is one of the good strategies, I guess, with the flex position is that you do allow yourself that extra. It's basically what the utility position was, but on field for fantasy, in that it just allows you guys to flick a lot easier. I know that in the BBL a lot, and this is where I'll sort of go in a second. It did allow with a lot of late outs and stuff like that, it allows a lot more flexibility. Plan for buy rounds, etc. Given that it's another player on field, 23 on field, and you're only looking for best 18 in buy rounds, that means that you can effectively have 5. If you're full primo by then, you will have 5 primos out per round. And that's why if we look at the show buys, playing in round 12, you'll see Butters, Bont, Sheasel, English, and Caleb Daniel. So that's already, well, Tim English is here. I don't know why. That would be that should be Tristan Cherry in a second, but I'll change that. But Cherry, Daniel, Butters, Bont, and Sheasel, that's already 5 guys out. So that's why this is a little bit of contention around Jason Horne-Francis. But talking about buys, it just opens up a lot more avenues, and it opens up a little bit more, less pain, I would say, in terms of, oh, you've got so many guys on this, even say Cherry you want as a keeper, that gets you up to 6. So it just opens up a little bit of an avenue that another guy, if you were to have 4 out in the midfield or 3 out in the defenders, it doesn't hurt as much because you can still get up to 22 guys there. If one of them's a DPP, etc., you can swing it, etc. So it just opens up a lot more avenues for flexibility, and then smart trading, etc., like that. Yeah. So anyway, to finish off this before we get into, just before we finish off this, I guess I wanted to talk a little bit about how the BBL and how I swung it there in terms of that, as this was the first use of it. So as you can see, I ended up with a bowler in there. For those that don't play BBL, the bowlers are generally like the rucks. They generally score the most, or the most consistent, I should say. As you can see, I had the the Sydney rain out, I would say, which kind of stuffs up the last round. But anyway, as you can see, I ended up with a bowler in there. I started out with a really cheap bowler as well. So I started out with that underpriced guy, I would say like an Angus Sheldrick or a Matt Flynn there. And it didn't work out because the guy got injured. But it would have probably worked out, and he still did he did all right, made a little bit of cash. I'm pretty sure I was able to flick him straight away. But yeah, I think that's the strategy that is best, is for the flex, is to start with a basically another rookie and use it as a cash generating spot for the first little bit. And then as we transition into the buys, you can look at guys like, and I think I was sort of inspired for this video by Abs and how he worked with the guys like a Noah Anderson. Noah Anderson is perfect for the flex position, given that you have 1 drop-off score. If we look at Noah Anderson and look and think about what scores are genuinely dropped off when we go, or what score is the 23rd primo type score that drops off in terms of scoring, I would say 90, 85 is around about that marker. So anything over 90 or 85 for Noah Anderson is what we're going to include in this analysis here. And you'll see exactly what I mean with him. If we go to any score 90, we'll include this, not include that. You can see 18 games of 113. We know that he averaged 103.9. Oh, that's in fantasy. Let's go to SuperCoach and actually do this the right way. But you can see almost the premise there that you're +9 on Noah Anderson as that 23rd primo on field. Let's actually do it in terms of SuperCoach, and you might have an extra game or 2 counted. But I think the premise is still there with Noah Anderson. Let's just check this out. There's that. 117 from 19 games, and he averaged 106.7. So he's plus 10.1, and you're only dropping 1, 2, 3, 4 stinkers. 4 absolute stinkers for him in that year, and you're only dropping those games rather than all of the having to count these sort of 50 scores, because in the end, obviously, I'll probably actually, if you were to start with Noah Anderson, let's actually do this. Obviously, he has the opening round bye. but I expect by round 9, a 70 might not even count. Oh, I actually was thinking about that. 50 is probably not going to count in the best 18 scenario. That round 6 or round 5 is, well, round 4 is the last one, but that was in the best of 18 scenario, so we'll give a little bit of leeway there with that. That's in the best 18, that 50 isn't going to count. 70 is probably not going to count by round 9, or you'd be very unlucky to have that. 70 is probably going to count. 55 won't by round 11, I don't expect, and then a 59. So thinking about the scoring wise, and he's now, if we look at just when he scored those points and sort of how many games he played, he ended up counting for 20 games if we use the flex position out of 23. And instead of a 106.7, he had an effective average of 114.5. So there's that, as well as not having that. And if you think about it, actually, given that we sort of expect a 60 to cover him for the opening round, this works a lot better for the non-opening round guys like a Newcomb, who have the same traits of going large but then having a really bad couple games. But he still had an effective average across 21 games if we include that 50 in the opening in that round 6 as if it's his bye round coverage. Then he still has a roundabout score of 111.4 from 21 games rather than 106.7, which is a plus, 4.7. If we go to players and we go to 111.4, and we go to past seasons and we go to midfielders, that should be good. Then we go to average, 111.4 gets him in at, and we go to midfielders, not anything else. We go to midfielders, you'll see 111.4 gets him in at number 11. If we were to take his actual average, he's 19th. So he's gone up 8 places, and genuinely a lot of teams would have had guys, and obviously you've got guys like a Sinclair and a Flanders. So it actually was, if you look at the mid forwards that popped up, etc., like that as well, he actually was the 9th best scoring player. If you take that 9th best scoring mid, if you take that into consideration. If we look at the ruck line, I would just want to do another example for you. Mike scored 124. Rowan Marshall, I think, works all right with this. I think he does. And obviously Marshall has some injury concerns that you've already heard Ross Lyon say that he'll be fit for round 1. But having said that, we'll just look at Rowan Marshall and his scoring, and we'll take the same 90 line or so, or 85 line, and we'll use that as well in terms of scoring. That 51 is probably not going to count, and then that 79, we're not going to count it there. You can remove that. So in the end, he actually accounts for 120.7 above the 112 that he scored. So he goes from a second ruck to pretty much in line with the number 1. Is there anyone else that we can count here? Let's look. Any other guys that score large? Maybe Kieran Briggs or something like that. Just trying to think of anyone that would have scored large here. Maybe let's check a Brodie Grundy, because he is a little bit further down the ruck stocks, I guess. So let's just check a Brodie Grundy here and just see if we can get that same alignment, but from a guy further down the scoring chain. So we'll go here. We'll look at let's take regular season games where he scores above 85, and let's just see if we can get those big scores in and see if he does actually work for this metric here. So if we take all that in consideration, Brodie Grundy goes to 117.2 if we look at 85 as the marker. So he is a plus 10.7. Obviously, he has the early round bye, which you can just include that. So he goes up to a 114. That is second ruck from 6th. That is a big jump in terms of scoring. So these are the type of guys that you really, really want, is those type of guys that have that peak game. He's got this run here of from round 8 to round 15 where he dropped 143, 102, 117, 86, 153, 154, 124. That is a massive, massive run. That if you can take that alongside these sort of 60s and Stowe games, those are the type of guys, and you only want a couple of these guys because they can fail bad, But if you can get that guy that really is high ceiling type of scores, where it's going to count half or 3/4 of the time, and then he has that stinker game, those are the type of scorers that are really, really good for the SuperCoach Flex position. We don't really see it as much in the BBL because of the double game weeks and the buys, etc., that come into play, etc. So that, but the BBL, it was really good for flexibility because a lot of teams had 2 guys out in the buy, etc., and you needed or 3 guys out from the buy from the same position or something dumb like that, or you wanted a double game week, you wanted access to another double game week player, you put them in the flex position, because sometimes you, especially starting structure, you couldn't actually access that double game week from the guy on the bench as much. So that's where you'd use it. Whereas in SuperCoach, it feels like a little bit different, that you're going to be using it mostly for those high ceiling, low floor type of guys, that big variance guys that can produce that big score. That's almost like a 1.5 score. But anyway, I think that's a good position to stop for the SuperCoach Flex position. Sort of my thoughts on it, how I sort of used it in SuperCoach in BBL, and how I'm sort of planning on using it in SuperCoach for the AFL season. So anyway, if you did enjoy that, remember to like and subscribe, turn the notification bell on so you know when I upload. If you're listening on Spotify, give me a follow and a rating over there, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye guys.